Chapter 1480. Hearing Yu Hongyan's question, Zhao Huan gently pursed his lips and answered, I naturally hope that my parents can enter the reincarnation cycle and start a new life. But they want to stay. Yu Hongyan nodded and said, Let Uncle Zhao and Aunt Zhao decide for themselves. They can't bear to leave you. Zhao Huan gently sighed. How can I bear to be separated from my parents? I just don't want them to be lonely souls that can only live in the artifact. They can't walk freely in the world like real living people. Yu Hongyan said, There are other old acquaintances who also choose to stay. Everyone can still enjoy the happiness of a neighbor and won't be lonely. Although Uncle Zhao and Aunt Zhao can't walk freely in the world, you can bring them out often. Zhao Huan replied, Yes, I understand. He looked at his master and didn't say anything else. No matter what, he could at least reunite with his parents and family. As for his master, Yu Hongyan, he would never be able to see his parents and family again. Yu Hongyan watched him grow up. How could she not know what Zhao Huan was thinking? Looking at Zhao Huan's expression, Yu Hongyan couldn't help but smile. Father, mother, and big brother sacrificed themselves to fight against the foreign enemies and protect us. Although I miss them, I can let go of it back then. How can I still be entangled with them today? Zhao Huan smiled and nodded. I'm too impulsive. Yu Hongyan shook his head and said with a smile, The older you get, the more things you worry about. Her eyes moved slightly, and she transmitted her voice to the outside of the cave residence. Yuan Zhen and Yuan Shuang are here. Just come in. A moment later, two figures appeared in front of Yu Hongyan and Zhao Huan. It was a man and a woman. The man was tall and had a square face. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes. He looked heroic and heroic. His eyes were firm and calm. On the other hand, the woman's appearance was beautiful. Her eyes were lively. Her hair was like snow, and even her brows were covered in frost. However, it wasn't because of cultivation, but because she was born with it. This man was none other than Zhao Huan's apprentice, Guizhong Huang. His Taoist name in the sect was Yuan Zhen, and he was the #1 true disciple of the third generation of the Xianmen Tianzong bloodline. Although Lin Feng and Yujing Mountain had disappeared into the void, many years had passed. The current Xianmen Tianzong was already the undisputed #1 force in the Tianyuan sector. It had a strong foundation to begin with, and with the accumulation of time, it became even more unshakable. Although the standards for selecting disciples have been getting higher and higher over the years, the mountain gate of the floating sky peak, coupled with the 8 great dojos that were spread all over the world, had a great momentum and prestige, and the celestial sect of wonders was still growing stronger and stronger. There was a feeling that all the heroes of the world had entered the sect. Xianmen Tianzong had completely become the #1 choice for all the ambitious and knowledgeable youths in the world who yearned to set foot on the path of cultivation. It wasn't just Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, and Yu Hongyan whose cultivation deepened day by day. It wasn't just Zhao Huan and the other true disciples of the second generation who had gradually become pillars that others couldn't ignore. Even Guizhong Huang and the other true disciples of the third generation had grown up, and their names had shaken to the Tianyuan sector. Even the Xianmen Tianzong direct disciples who were even lower in seniority had begun to make their voices heard. In these years, Xianmen Tianzong welcomed the most shocking eruption of its accumulated strength. Not only did Yu Hongyan, Yang Qing, Li Yuanfang, and Luo Qingwu all refine their spirits to return to the void, but there were also countless powerful cultivators of the younger generation who had reached the nascent divinity realm, causing the entire Tianyuan sector to tremble. Right now, there was still the Haoyan Mirror, Gautama Buddha, and Juehuang Xianshang. There was even Sun Mirage, Yidu, the Great Sage, Lord Supreme One, Shoichi Dashin, Sword Venerable Celestial Dipper, King Shenlong, and the other strong practitioners. But as time continued to pass, what would happen to Xianmen Tianzong? Everyone now deeply understood that when Lin Feng was still around, Xianmen Tianzong was indeed still in the stage of rapid development. There was still a long way to go before it could truly turn its terrifying potential into great power. However, its power was so great that no one dared to think about it. Right now, Its terrifying potential had yet to be completely transformed, but it was already enough to make everyone's hearts tremble. Even though Lin Feng no longer seemed to care about what happened in the vast thousand worlds, the heaven-punishing sword that hung in the sky and the great power that sealed Juehuang, Xianshang, and the Xianhai were still a constant reminder to the people of the world. They could only watch helplessly as the unprecedented sacred land of Xianmen Tianzong climbed to even more terrifying heights. At that moment, Guozhonghuang, who was in front of Yu Hongyan and Zhao Huan, had continued to cultivate after proving his primordial spirit. Right now, his strength had long surpassed that of his own master, Zhao Huan. Not only did Zhao Huan not mind this, but he was also quite gratified. The sect had a successor, and outstanding talents were emerging endlessly. This made him very happy. Now, Guozhonghuang had already opened his doors and accepted disciples. He even had grand disciples. Many of the younger disciples in the sect called him Elder Gua. Other than Xianmen Tianzong, the others were more used to calling Guozhonghuang deity, Yuanjin Dao, venerable Guozhonghuang deity. He was not an imperial descendant, but he was respectfully called the emperor by others. Since ancient times, there had been very few. Even within the celestial sect of wonders, there were not many. But whether it was inside or outside the Xianmen sect, no one in the Divine Continent or Tianhuang region thought that this heroic man was not worthy of the title. Even though the second sect master, Xiao Yin, was still in power, it was publicly acknowledged that unless he died prematurely, Guozhonghuang would definitely be the first choice to inherit the position of the sect master of the number one sacred land in the world, Xianmen Tianzong, among the 3 generations of true disciples of the sect, unless he died prematurely. Under the situation that there was no change of the same generation, if there were no accidents, Guozhonghuang was basically the 4th sect master of Xianmen Tianzong, just like how Xiao Yin would inherit the position of Tang Jun in the future. Now, Guozhonghuang spent most of his time cultivating and teaching disciples in the Xiankong Heavenly Peak. He also assisted Xiao Yin and Tang Jun in managing the internal affairs of the sect. This time, he took his wife out of the mountain and passed through the Snow Gale country. He specially returned to Snow Gale Valley to pay a visit to his grandmaster and master. The snow-haired woman beside Guozhonghuang was his wife, Yi Xuan, also a 3rd-generation true disciple of Xianmen Tianzong. She was born in the desolate Sky Valley, and her Taoist name was Yuan Xuan. She had been studying under Zhuge Wanqiu, the Tianhong Dao Venerable Zhuge Wanqiu, since she was a child. The two had become Taoist companions many years ago. In addition to Guozhonghuang, Yi Xuan was also a direct disciple of Xianmen Tianzong and a top expert among the 3rd-generation true disciples of desolate Sky Valley. Their union had always been a widely spread story in the Divine Land. Yi Xuan's elder brother, Yi Xinhui, was also a direct disciple of Xianmen Tianzong like her. He was also a 3rd-generation true disciple under Zhu Yi. The siblings, born from the same mother, were both famous rising stars and outstanding experts in the human cultivation world. They were also praised by the world. After Guozhonghuang and Yi Xuan bowed to Yu Hongyan and Zhao Huan, Guozhonghuang said, "Grandmaster, Master, Xuan, and I met 5th Uncle Master and his wife in the southern wasteland during our journey." Yu Hongyan smiled and said, "With 5th junior brother's current cultivation, he can be regarded as a doctor in the secular world. Even if he can't bring the dead back to life, he can't be far from it. Xiao Feng has been following him all these years, and his medical skills have also improved. He has saved countless lives." Guozhonghuang nodded and answered, "That's right. After receiving the message from the sect master, 5th Uncle Master has already prepared to leave for Kunlun Mountain. Senior Feng can continue on his journey." Yu Hongyan said, "It's okay. 2nd senior brother founded the Book of Changes Academy, and it has a branch in the southern wasteland. Moreover, it is the territory of the ancient dynasty. Xiao Feng will be fine, and 5th junior brother will definitely make arrangements." She stood up and said, "Let's go. I'll go with you to Kunlun Mountain." Yu Hongyan told Zhao Huan, "I'll leave Snowstorm Valley to you." Zhao Huan smiled and said, Rest assured, master. Guozong Huang and Yi Xinxuan bowed to Zhao Huan and took their leave. Then, they followed Yu Hongyan out of Snowstorm Valley. They stepped through the void and headed for the Kunlun mountain range. Xianmin, Tianzong's mountain gate, the floating sky peak. Stepping onto the floating sky peak, the first thing they saw was Zhu Yi. He stood there silently. There was no aura of mana around him, only an aura of elegance. He didn't look like a cultivator, but more like a learned scholar. Behind Zhu, he was a dark and skinny young man. He was his personal disciple, Ing Rosa. Behind Ing Rosa stood a man and a woman. The man had snow-white eyebrows like Yi Xinxuan. He was her elder brother, Yi Xinhui. The woman beside Yi Xinhui was Ing Rosa's disciple, Meng Honglu. They were Xianmin, Tianzong's famous Taoist couple. The man looked gentle, while the woman was tough. However, there was a sense of harmony between them. The union between the two was beyond many people's expectations. However, they had walked hand in hand for many years, and it had already become a legend. When Yi Xinxuan saw her elder brother, she smiled. Yi Xinhui also smiled. However, the siblings first bowed to their respective elders. Meng Honglu's somewhat cold gaze, upon seeing her sister-in-law, became a little warmer. After Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan greeted each other, they left the juniors and disciples outside and entered the celestial Great Hall at the top of the floating sky peak. After entering the Great Hall, Xiao Yin sat on the host seat. Wang Lin, Shi Tianhao, Yang Qing, Li Yuanfang, and Luo Qingwu had already arrived. When they saw the two enter, they smiled and said, "Everyone is here. Eldest senior brother, you can speak now." After Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan sat down, Xiao Yin said, "Master has come to give us instructions." When they heard this, the other 7 people straightened their expressions and looked at Xiao Yin. Xiao Yin continued, 3 days later, Master will retract the Xintian Bureau that has sealed the Xintian Sea. At that time, Ultimate Emperor Xianshang might rush out of the Xintian Sea. Master said that if Zhu Huang wants to live in peace, then let him be. If Zhu Huang wants to fight, then we brothers and sisters will take care of it. Zhu Yi and the others nodded. If Master has something to do, the disciples will do it. It is only right. Xiao Yin stood up and said, "In that case, let's go together. Let's see what Ultimate Emperor will do." Shi Tianhao laughed. Let's go, let's go." The senior and junior brothers and junior sisters immediately stood up. At this moment, the celestial Great Hall seemed to shake, the Kunlun mountain range seemed to shake, and the divine land seemed to shake. Chapter 1481. 3 days later, in the vast infinite wasteland, at the entrance of the mystic sea to the vast thousand world, there was also a vast body of water called the Purple Mist Sea. At this moment, the Purple Mist Sea was calm and tranquil. However, the entrance to the mystic sea that once existed here had disappeared. There was nothing else in the vast Purple Mist Sea. After so many years, the people of the vast, infinite wasteland and even the divine land had gradually gotten used to this. During the Battle of the Spirit Sea, Juehuang Xianshang had returned and retreated into the mystic sea. However, the master of the celestial gate, Lin Feng, had descended from the heavens and sealed it there. The Bell of Creation, the Tai Chi Heavenly Star Formation, the Xintian Bureau, and the Heaven Punishing Sword Formation had all turned into a cage, trapping Xianshang, the demon emperor who stood at the peak of the great heaven world, in his own lair, the Mystic Sea. At that time, even the entrance to the Mystic Sea had disappeared from the vast thousand world. The dragon race seemed to have been exiled, separated from the vast thousand world, and it was difficult for the people of the outside world to enter the Mystic Sea. Now, many years had passed, and the experts of the great heaven world had even gradually gotten used to it. The Purple Mist Sea was no longer the platform of the dragon race in the past, and it was no longer as grand as it used to be. It was even to the extent that along with the passage of time, some younger demons with comparatively lower cultivations started to occupy Violet Haze Sea and cultivate there. Whether it was the master of the Celestial Gate, Lin Feng, or the supreme majesty of the dragon race, they had all become legends. Although many of the Fey race were worried that the dragon race would return one day, they could not put themselves in their shoes. The rich purple haze sea still attracted many Fey race in the end. However, the purple mist sea was no longer calm. After the entrance to the mystic sea disappeared, the demons that lived there rushed out of the sea in large numbers and fled into the distance. A huge whirlpool suddenly appeared in the depths of the sea, spinning nonstop. Not only the sea below, but even the void above the whirlpool was also distorted. The entire space seemed to have formed a scene of a tornado, and everything became blurry. The whirlpool that connected the heavens and the earth gradually turned into a pitch-black crack after twisting to the extreme. A dazzling white light gradually shot out from the crack. That was not pure light, but the light produced when the power of the domain was distorted to the extreme and collided with each other. Then, the crack that seemed to have split the world into two twisted continuously and gradually shrank. From a line, it turned into a dot, and in the end, it turned into an existence that looked like a door. At the sight of this, the unreal thoughts that only existed in legends and imagination in the hearts of the demons suddenly became extremely clear. That was the gate leading to the mysterious sea. The former rulers of this place, the dragon race, were about to reappear in the world. Jihuang Xinyuan had been destroyed by the sect master of the celestial gate, Lin Feng. Since Yuang Tianhai had yet to return, Juehuang Xuanshang was the undisputed strongest expert of the demon race. With him in charge, the dragon race was also the undisputed strongest race of Tianhuang Wasteland. In the minds of the demons, it was as if the roar of a dragon that shook the 9 heavens had already appeared. This was only the reappearance of the Xian Sea's passageway entrance. If the true experts of the Dragon Clan were to appear, the Demon Clan that had occupied the Violet Mist Sea in recent years would not even have the thought of escaping. They could only lie limply on the ground, shivering, and stretch out their necks to be killed. Although the entrance to the Xian Sea passageway had reappeared, there were still rays of light shrouding it. One of the rays of light trembled slightly, then suddenly flew into the air. From outside the myriad domains and the Xian Sea realm, it looked as if the rays of light surrounding the Xian Sea had suddenly broken apart. Inside, a screen of light that was as vast as a world and crisscrossed with lines of longitude and latitude had left the Xian Sea realm. The screen of light continued to shrink until it turned into a seemingly ordinary chessboard. It flickered in the void, then turned into a dot of light that instantly disappeared into the distance. The other forces that had trapped the Xian Sea also gradually dispersed. The sound of a tsunami in the Xian Sea rang out from the passageway and spread far and wide, shaking the surrounding world. There was also an extremely majestic dragon roar that was even more shocking than the sound of the waves in the Xian Sea. It resounded throughout the entire Heaven Origin world. Everyone knew that it was the voice of one of the 3 strongest demons in the history of Heaven Origin world, the progenitor of the dragon race, Juehuang Xuanshang. The demon race's Saint Emperor, who had been trapped in the Xian Sea for many years by the master of the celestial gates, Lin Feng, had finally regained his freedom. The dragon's roar shook the heavens. The first dragon's emergence from the sea shook the entire Heaven Origin world. Whether it was the divine land or the vast infinite continent, everyone's eyes were focused on the Xian Sea. Although he had been trapped for many years by the master of the celestial gates, Lin Feng, Juehuang Xuanshang was still Juehuang Xuanshang, the supreme expert who had once ruled over the myriad domains. Apart from Lin Feng, who had killed Jihuang Xinyuan, who else in the world would dare claim victory against Juehuang Xuanshang? Even the Taishu Taoist needed the Haoyan mirror to fight Juehuang Xuanshang. Only by teaming up with the Gautama Buddha would they be able to kill Juehuang Xuanshang. But at least one of the 3, the Taishu Taoist, the Buddhist ancestor, and the Haoyan mirror, would die with Juehuang Xuanshang. Only the master of the celestial gates, Lin Feng, could defeat this great demon. And with Jue Huang, Xuanshan's personality, he had been trapped for many years and humiliated to the extreme. Even if he knew he was no match for Lin Feng, how could he back down? Although no one knew how Jue Huang had managed to escape the Xian Sea, the battle between him and a master of the Celestial Gates was unavoidable. This was bound to be another battle that would affect the entire Heaven Origin world after the Battle of the Spirit Sea. As expected, when the Xian Sea entered his mouth, golden light flashed and a huge figure charged out. The mighty roar of a dragon spread to every corner of the world. Master of the Celestial Gates, come and fight. But right at this moment, the space above the surface of the violet haze sea suddenly trembled violently. In the four directions of the Xianhai realm passageway, spatial rifts split open, and a figure walked out from each of them. The one standing in the north was a woman. She was beautiful and full of heroic spirit. She wore purple clothes and had a head of fiery red hair. Her eyebrows were like two thin swords dripping with blood. The one standing in the east was a young man. He was handsome and had a calm temperament. He wore a purple robe, and his eyes were black and white. They alternated like yin and yang. The one standing in the south was also a young man. He was tall and thin and had dark skin. His expression was calm and solemn. His gaze was serious and determined. The one standing in the west was a slender girl. She was beautiful and pure. Silently, a pure black light shone between her eyebrows. She held a black ice sword in her hand. They were the direct disciples of the master of the Celestial Gates, Lin Feng, Yu Hongyan, Yang Qing, Li Yuanfeng, and Luo Qingwu. They didn't say much when they arrived. Silently, they just looked at the Xianxi door. Jue Huang Xianshang, who was in the Xianxi, didn't say anything either. His cold and dignified gaze pierced through the void and landed in the center of Yu Hongyan and the others. There, right next to the entrance of the Xianxi door, a long rainbow appeared in the void and blocked the entrance of the Xianxi. A young scholar in a purple robe stood on the golden rainbow. It was Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi said indifferently, Jue Huang, if you stop, we can live in peace. If you want to fight, we will accompany you. As he spoke, he gently waved his hand. For balls of light rose from the void and flickered between heaven and earth. Yu Hongyan and the other three took a step forward, each stepping into a ball of light. Then, the light spread out in unison and converged into one. The Tai Chi heavenly cycle star formation descended from the void and landed on Zhu Yi's Permitha bridge. Zhu Yi smiled and brought his palms together. Then, a strange Dao fruit appeared in front of him. The Dao fruit looked incomparably mysterious. It was like an extremely complicated and yet extremely simple character. It was difficult to describe and unfathomable, but it seemed to contain all the variations of a myriad of principles with just one word. It was like the first word in the world, but also like the last word that summed up all principles. The Tai Chi heavenly cycle star formation and the balls of light around Yu Hongyan and the others merged together. Under Zhu Yi's control, it became more and more mysterious and unfathomable. The formation drew in the power of the Sea of Stars and actually surrounded the entire Xian Sea, sealing it. Jue Huang watched this scene coldly. He didn't stop it, because this was just the beginning. Two figures appeared in the Xian Sea, each with a strange Dao fruit in front of them. One of them was a tall, high-spirited young man. The blood energy around him was so strong that it could shake the universe. The Dao fruit in front of him looked like an illusory ball of air. It was difficult to describe its true shape. When Jue Huang saw this, his heart trembled slightly. Looking at the Dao fruit, he felt as if he was looking at the changes of the universe since the beginning of the era. On the other side was a white-haired young man with a calm and indifferent expression. He looked extremely ordinary, like an ordinary person, but as he stood there, he gave off an unfathomable feeling. The Dao fruit in front of the white-haired young man looked like a small wheel of light that was spinning slowly. It did not exist in this world, did not exist in this moment. It cannot be defined by time and space, but it seemed to show the mystery of the impermanence of fate. Shi Tianhao and Wang Lin also looked calmly at Jue Huang Xianshang, the strongest opponent they had ever faced in their lives. Fate Creation Boy and the Heaven Punishment Sword formation appeared above their heads. Wang Lin's expression was indifferent. He did not say a word. Shi Tianhao smiled and nodded at Fate Creation Boy. "Thank you for your trouble, fellow Taoist." Fate Creation Boy returned the greeting with a smile. "You're welcome, fellow Taoist." As he spoke, the Xinhai realm space suddenly split open. The black sea water, flashing with golden light and roaring, rose to the sky. It collided with the red light that rushed out of the crack. The endless natural disasters and earthly tribulations were all enveloped by the red light. They constantly destroyed the black water of the Xinhai realm and clashed with the Xinhai realm space, causing the roaring of the Xinhai realm space to become softer. Jue Huang Xianshang's eyes narrowed. The Xinhai realm sea. The red tide of the Xinhai realm sea, formed by thousands of disasters and tribulations, parted. A handsome man, like the emperor of the Xinhai realm, walked out slowly. It was Lin Feng's eldest disciple, the current sect leader of Xianmen Tianzong, Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan looked at Jue Huang calmly and said, "Jue Huang, if you want to fight, then let's fight. But if you want to see my master, don't even think about it. From today on, whoever my master wants to see, he can see. Those who my master doesn't want to see are destined not to be able to see my master." Chapter 1482. The battle in the Xianhai of Infinite Wasteland was destined to be engraved in the history of the great heaven world. In this battle, the leader of the dragon race, Jue Huang Xuanshang, was killed by Xianmen Tianzong. In this battle, the leader of the celestial gate, Lin Feng, and his heaven-punishing sword, which made the heavens tremble, did not appear from start to finish. The result of the battle shook the entire great heaven world. Whether it was the vast wasteland land or the divine land, everyone fell into a long period of silence. During the Battle of the Spirit Sea, the extreme Emperor's divine abyss had just returned, but it was sent back to destruction by Lin Feng, the master of the Celestial Gate. While shocking the world, it also solidified Lin Feng's position as the #1 person in history. Even though Ji Huang Xinyuan had died at Lin Feng's hands, Jue Huang Xuanshang and Yu Huang Tianhai, who had yet to return, were still publicly acknowledged experts who stood at the peak of the world. Among the experts of the human race in the world, only the Taishu Taoist and Gautama Buddha could be mentioned in the same breath as them. They represented the most powerful existences in the great heaven primordial world. But all of this had a precondition, and that was that the leader of the Celestial Gate, Lin Feng, was not included. Otherwise, everything would be different. Over the years, although Lin Feng had been passed down to Xiao Yin and disappeared with Yujing Mountain, no longer stepping into the Great Thousand World, his legend was forever engraved in this world. And in recent years, Xianmen Tianzong's strength continued to rise, becoming publicly acknowledged as the #1 sacred land in the great heaven world. No one could compete with its prestige. However, there were a lot of factors in this, naturally stemming from Lin Feng's personal reasons. But today, Xianmen Tianzong, who had already made the great Thousand World look at him in a new light, shocked the world once again. Everyone was dumbfounded and speechless. Lin Feng and Xianli were not around. Their disciples had killed the strongest person in the heaven primal world, second only to Lin Feng himself, the ancestor of the dragon race, Jue Huang Xianshang. Although Lin Feng had left behind the heaven-punishing sword formation, the Taiji heavenly cycle star formation, and the Bell of Fortune, and although the second-generation sect master of Xianmen Tianzong, the Flame Emperor Xiaoyan, controlled the Nether Sea, one of the 7 seas of heaven's origin, they had killed Jue Huang Xianshang in the profound sea and shocked the entire world. People suddenly realized that even without Lin Feng, the current Xianmen Tianzong was still a behemoth that dazzled everyone. What made people feel even more complicated was that this behemoth was actually still in the midst of continuous development and improvement. Above the East Sea in the Divine Land, in the eastern glazed world, the 48,000 feet tall Buddha's pagoda shone brightly. At the top of the pagoda sat 3 figures, 2 real and 1 illusory. The figure on the left had the 5 Pure Lands and the 5 Wisdom Kings above his head. It was so grand that it seemed to fill the entire world. It was Gautama Gautama. The figure in the middle had 48,000 arms spread out. It was the future glazed Buddha Lord, whose body was like glazed glass. On the right was an illusory shadow that seemed to have another Buddha sitting within it. Gautama Gautama and the future glazed Buddha Lord looked into the void. It was as if they had crossed an infinite distance to look at the vast land of infinite wasteland and the profound sea. The 2 Buddhas had calm expressions. Slowly, their gazes landed in the extreme west. That was where the Kunlun mountain range in the Divine Land was, where the mountain gate of Xianmen Tianzong was located. They did not know where Yujing Mountain was, and Linfeng was no longer in the Kunlun mountain range. After glancing at Kunlun Mountain, Gautama Gautama and the future glazed Buddha Lord withdrew their gazes and looked up into the void. There, a sword that could destroy the world hung high in the sky. Others were unable to sense it, but Gautama Gautama could naturally see it. Below the top of the Buddha's pagoda, there were many Buddhas sitting on the huge pagoda. There was a person with an angry gaze. He wore a golden kasaya, but his skin was dark like iron. His entire body flickered with a glazed light, and there was a ball of demonic chi above his head. Amidst the demonic chi, there was an enormous black ape with a completely black body and blood-red eyes. He was sitting in a lotus position with his hands formed seals. Beside him, there was a person with a solemn expression. He also wore a golden kasaya, but he had short white hair on top of his head. His eyes were green and red, and there was a glazed light flowing around his body. But just like the Buddha beside him, there was a ball of demonic chi swaying above his head. Among it, there was an enormous white ape with 4 legs that were like crimson flames and a body that was completely white like jade. It was also forming seals and sitting in the lotus position. Beside the 2 of them was a tall and thin Buddha with a handsome appearance. His entire body flickered with a glazed light, and there was even a colorful radiance around him. There was a ball of demonic chi above his head, and within the demonic chi was a peacock. Its tail feathers were spread open, and it was filled with the true meaning of wisdom and enlightenment. Below these 3 Buddhas, there were a large number of figures. The one at the top was an old Buddha. His eyes were calm like water, and he formed seals with his palms. His gaze was also looking towards the Kunlun mountain in the west, and a faint smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. At the same time, above the Divine Land, there seemed to be a bright mirror light swaying in the sky above the white cloud mountain where the Taishu Temple was located. As the mirror light flickered, it seemed to cover every corner of the boundless universe. It was everywhere, and it was difficult to describe. It was the light that belonged to the Haoyan mirror. At this moment, the white cloud mountain was still enveloped by layers of clouds, and it was difficult to see the scene within clearly. Only on the top of the mountain, there seemed to be some faint figures. Since returning from the Dead Sea, the Taishu Taoist had not set foot in the boundless universe, nor had he returned to the white cloud mountain. After so many years, although the Taishu Temple was no longer sealed off after the war between the 2 worlds, it had also become much more low-key, and there were very few disciples who came out to the world. Everything seemed to have returned to the situation before the Battle of West Hill City. But everyone, including the Taishu Temple itself, knew that the current situation naturally could not return to the past. After the 3rd sacrifice, the sky-crushing sword had truly possessed the power to destroy the world. Even if Lord Tai and the others wanted to sacrifice themselves, there was nothing they could do. At this moment, the sky-crushing sword was still hanging high in the sky. If they were to fight, the result would most likely be the destruction of the world. The power of the sword that Lin Feng had used to defeat Jihuang Xinyuan had shaken the boundless universe. It fell into everyone's eyes, and also remained eternally in their hearts, unable to be erased. At the top of the White Cloud Mountain, the people of the Taishu Temple silently looked in the direction of the mysterious sea, the Kunlun mountain range, and the void above their heads. Also in the Kunlun mountain range, located in the southern foothills of the Kunlun mountain, near the land of West Shu, stood a spirit mountain. That was where the Beyond Sky mountain used to be. In the current human cultivation world of the Divine Land, apart from the suffocating but habitual rapid progress of Xianmen Tianzong, the biggest change was not the gradually recovering Great Zhou dynasty, the thriving northern militant royal court, the Qin dynasty, which Shi Xingyan had returned to West Hill City, the Mount Shu sword sect, or even the ancient dynasty that had returned to the Divine Land. The biggest change was in the southern foothills of the Kunlun Mountain. In the past, not to mention the Great Zhou dynasty, the Great Qin dynasty, and the Mount Shu sect, even the Wilderness Sword sect, and even the whole clan, which belonged to the Great Qin dynasty, had really soared to the sky. This small sect was the Beyond Sky Mountain. Its current sect leader was called Chu Yang, who was respectfully called the Ninth Heaven Sword by the world. In this small sect, there was now a creation magic treasure guarding the mountain gate, which was called the Ninth Heaven Sword, as well as the heaven-opening sword of the Mount Shu sword sect. Chu Yang himself, at the Void Return stage, easily defeated the current sect leader of the Mount Shu sword sect, Ji1 Rue, who was at the Dao integration stage, which shocked the world. If it weren't for the fact that the Mount Shu sword sect still had two powerhouses, Xian Longsheng and Tiangang Swordmaster, in the eyes of others, Chu Yang alone could almost support the Beyond Sky Mountain to become the #1 swordsman, except for Xianmen Tianzong. Even so, Chu Yang, who was at the Void Return stage, had become famous in the Divine Land and became one of the top powerhouses besides Xianmen Tianzong. He had unlimited potential and amazing strength. There were people who respectfully called him the Sword Emperor, but Chu Yang himself rejected it. Many people sighed and felt that if Chu Yang had not insisted, the title of Sword Emperor might not have been secure for the second-generation true elder of Xianmen Tianzong, dubbed he Sword Venerable Han Yang. However, Chu Yang had always been close to Xianmen Tianzong in the Beyond Sky Mountain. It was said that Chu Yang was one of the few people besides Xianmen Tianzong who had received personal guidance from the master of the celestial sect. It was not a rumor that Chu Yang wanted the personal disciple of the master of the celestial sect, Lin Feng, Sword Immortal Lord Luo Qingwu. It was just that his wish had not been fulfilled yet. The current Beyond Sky Mountain could already be considered as a treasure land under the transformation of Chu Yang's divine powers and dermic powers. It was no longer as shabby as before. Chu Yang sat calmly on the peak of Beyond Sky Mountain. He looked in the direction of the realm passageway from southern border to infinite wasteland. His mind was on infinite wasteland, and his expression was calm. He turned to look towards the north. That was the northern foothills of the Kunlun mountain range, where the Xianmen Tianzong sect was located. He sighed softly, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. I wonder where Senior Lin is now. Does he know that Qing Wu and the other fellow Taoists have done such a shocking feat? No one knew that Yujing Mountain, which had disappeared from the Divine Land for many years, was actually in the void above the sky peak of the Xianmen Tianzong sect at this moment. Rolling purple gas filled the void. The white jade, immortal mountain was still majestic. The black Yinyang Sea at the foot of the mountain rolled continuously. The Xiantian treasure tree at the top of the mountain shook its leaves, and seven-colored light flashed continuously. Everything seemed to be the same as before. However, there seemed to be something different that was difficult to fathom. At the top of the tree, there was a small Xiantian treasure tree in the Xiantian time light grotto heaven. At this moment, there were two people under the tree. They were sitting opposite each other on a chessboard, playing a game of chess. One of them was a man dressed in white. His facial features looked extremely ordinary, but it was difficult to tell his age. The aura around him was grand and vast, but also mysterious and unpredictable. It was difficult to measure and difficult to describe. This person was the founder of the Taishu Temple, the Taishu Taoist, who had not appeared in the vast thousand domains ever since he returned from the Dead Sea. Ever since he left the Dead Sea and the Spirit Sea, the Taishu Taoist had been traveling the void. His figures seemed to be everywhere in the universe at the same time. He was everywhere, but it also seemed like he was not in any one place. It was not until not long ago that he received an invitation to come to Yujing Mountain before him. The person who invited him was naturally the person opposite him on the chessboard, the person who was playing against him. It was a young man dressed in purple with his hair hanging loosely down his back. Who else could it be but Lin Feng? The game between the two of them was the Xiantian game that Lin Feng had retrieved from the Dark Sea. The Taishu Taoist silently looked at the chessboard in front of him. His mind was completely focused on the Xiantian game, and his divine sense was isolated from the Grotto Heaven. As he looked at the game, he asked calmly, "Did you manage to get a result when you sent your disciple to the Dark Sea?" Lin Feng smiled calmly and placed a piece on the chessboard. Absolute Emperor insisted on fighting. My disciples have already sent him to his death. The youngsters are a little impulsive. I made a fool of myself in front of you. Chapter 1483. As soon as Lin Feng finished speaking, the Taishu Taoist's gaze shifted from the Xiantian game to Lin Feng himself. Seeing Lin Feng's casual manner, the Taishu Taoist knew that Ultimate Huang had fallen, while Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, and the others had survived. If he could send Ultimate Huang to death, then he should be able to send the Taishu Taoist or Gautama to death. Fellow Taoist, your sect is indeed extraordinary. The Taishu Taoist shook his head and picked up a chess piece. After a moment of thought, he placed it on the Xiantian game. Lin Feng casually replied, "Fellow Taoist, you flatter me." The Taishu Taoist fell into deep thought as he placed the chess piece. Silently, he stared at the board. Lin Feng stood up, his gaze piercing through the Xiantian time, light, grotto heaven, and the boundless void to land on the great thousand world. He looked in the direction of the Xian Sea. There had just been a great battle that shook the entire heaven primordial world, and one of the strongest experts in the history of the great thousand world had just fallen. Lin Feng let out a faint sigh, then stretched out his hand and pointed in the direction of Xianhai from afar. Under Zhu Yi's control, the Taiji heavenly cycle star formation that enveloped the Xian Sea world suddenly flipped and released Yu Hongyan, Yang Qing, Li Yuanfang, and Luo Qingwu. Then, they turned into a Taiji diagram surrounded by starlight and flew away from the Xian Sea. Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, and the others bowed in the direction of the Taiji diagram. After the Taiji heavenly cycle star formation flew into the sky, it opened up once more. As it operated, the universe flowed ceaselessly. At the center of it, the Taiji Star Palace was faintly discernible. Around the Taiji Star Palace, 6 balls of light gradually flickered and appeared. They were the 6 star sea gates. Lin Feng pressed his palms together in front of his chest, and the Taiji heavenly cycle star array's circulation paused slightly. The starlight that filled the sky also stopped moving, no longer flickering. The 6 starry sea gates all emitted dazzling lights, which made them more mysterious and powerful. The star power that gushed out from it was unprecedentedly vast. In the sea of stars, the star tomb that was hard to find in the past suddenly revealed itself. With it, as the center, the entire desolate ancient star sea was in great turmoil, and a magnificent star sea turbulence was set off. The scale of the space turbulence was far larger than the one that Lin Feng and the rest of them had encountered when they first entered the Sea of Stars. The 6 star sea gates were shaking nonstop. The 6 passages leading to the Sea of Stars were twisting as if they would shatter at any moment. This catastrophe affected the entire desolate ancient star sea. It even caused the void realms to tremble. At this moment, everyone in the vast thousand domains looked up at the sky in shock. It was clearly daytime, but they saw that the sky had suddenly darkened. The light of the sun was no longer visible. Instead, the starlight that was clearly visible at night had all lit up at this moment. An unforgettable scene appeared in front of everyone's eyes. In the universe, there seemed to be a meteor shower of an unbelievably large scale. This meteor shower covered every corner of the pitch-black universe. It filled everyone's vision and was everywhere. Some people recalled the records of their sections. In the history of the great heaven primal world, a meteor shower of this scale had only appeared at the intersection of the ancient era and the middle era. At that time, the turmoil had also originated from the desolate ancient star sea. The passage connecting the star sea world to the vast thousand domains had been distorted and broken, splitting into 6 star sea gates. Now, the scene of the past had reappeared, and it seemed even more magnificent than what was recorded in the history books. For a moment, the people who recalled that scene were enlightened. They seemed to realize what was about to happen. In the Tai Chi heavenly cycle star formation, the 6 star sea gates flew out at this moment and then gathered together. The sky was filled with starlight. The 6 huge gates gradually lost their original appearance and turned into 6 huge balls of light. When these 6 balls of light fused together, the light actually dimmed a little. Even the starry sky and the starry sky in the universe dimmed along with it. After a short while, the ripples spread out in all directions. If one were to look closely, each ripple seemed like a star that was constantly moving in a certain orbit. In the center of the ripples, a bright light lit up again. After a moment, it was extinguished. Then, the entrance of a passage appeared like a door. Looking through the entrance of the passage, one could vaguely see the magnificent scene of the desolate ancient star sea. However, at this moment, the turbulence of the star sea had not yet subsided. Violent and restless starlight roared and roared. It was different from usual, and it looked somewhat like the dark sea and the empty sea. Around the door, one could see the power of the domain constantly surging, tearing cracks that flickered with white light in the nearby space. Just as many people had expected, the 6 star sea gates had actually reunited into one today. Before the Middle Era, the only passage connecting the vast thousand domains to the star sea world had reappeared, as if time had reversed. Unlike the 6 star sea gates, the current passage vibrated in the void, but it seemed to be fixed in a corner of the sky. At the peak of the Jade Capital Mountain, within the mysterious Sky-Time Cave, Lin Feng saw this and smiled. His palms separated from his chest, and then his right hand pointed into the distance. The turbulent passage suddenly changed again, and the space between the heavens and the earth twisted. Streams of purple chi suddenly appeared, covering the sky and filling the universe, merging with the passage leading to the desolate ancient star sea. Boundless starlight and purple chi merged together, gradually condensing into a solid substance, wrapping around the entrance of the passage and turning it into a door-like existence. Profound runes and seals continuously appeared on the door, forming beautiful carvings that seemed to be eternally engraved in time and space, in the vast thousand domains, and in the star sea of the universe. The door that opened to the 2 sides completely formed, and then it suddenly closed. There was a taiji yin and yang fish on each of the 2 doors. After the door closed, the 2 fused into one, and a taiji diagram appeared in the center of the door. After the door closed, the taiji diagram began to revolve slowly, profound and unfathomable. An unprecedented, unique, brand new star sea gate appeared in the great heaven world. The completely purple star sea gate that shone with starlight finally settled at this moment, and once again descended into the taiji heavenly cycle stars array. The star sea gate disappeared, and the taiji heavenly cycle stars array suddenly shook. Boundless starlight once again spread out, turning into countless profound runes that combined together, displaying the mysteries of the stars. Within the array, the universe and stars appeared once more, causing people to gasp in amazement. As for the taiji heavenly palace, which was originally guarding the array's eye, it flew out of the array and returned to Xiao Yan's hand. Lin Feng gently pointed his finger, and the huge array turned into a small ball of light, instantly breaking through the void and disappearing. When the taiji heavenly cycle stars array appeared again, it was at the northern foot of the Kunlun mountain range, where the mountain gate of Xianmin Tianzong was located on the Cloud Peak Mirror Lake on the floating sky peak. The huge array descended from the sky, enveloping the entire Cloud Peak Mirror Lake, and then disappeared, as if it had disappeared without a trace. However, in the sky above the floating sky peak, the azure sky that had returned to daytime broke open again at this moment, revealing a pitch-black universe with countless stars that constantly twinkled. From then on, a spectacle appeared at the mountain gate of Xianmin Tianzong in the vast thousand domains, and it was passed down through the ages. The void above the mountain gate seemed to reflect the scene of the universe's sea of stars. Regardless of whether it was winter or summer, day or night, or whether it was cloudy or sunny, it was always the same. It never changed. Everyone knew that it was the mountain-guarding array of Xianmin Tianzong. The Taiji Heavenly Cycle Stars Array usually looked magnificent, but when it was really activated when it encountered an enemy, it would use the endless mysteries of the Taiji Heavenly Cycle Stars Array to activate the infinite power of the Sea of Stars. It was truly the most powerful array in the world. What made the others shiver was that this formation was just like before, it could be moved. Naturally, if one wanted to go to the desolate ancient star sea, this was also where the door was. In the vast thousand domains, regardless of whether it was the divine land or the infinite wasteland, everyone was shocked at this moment. Xianmin Tianzong, Xiaoyan, and the others had just sent Juehuang Xuanshang into destruction. Before they could digest the huge impact, there was another huge change in front of them. What caught everyone's attention was that it was very likely that the person who had done this was the legendary Celestial Gate Sect Master, who had not stepped into the world for many years. For the experts of the older generation, the Celestial Gate Sect Master Lin Feng was more or less real. For the younger generation that had been born after the Battle of the Spirit Sea, the Celestial Gate Sect Master Lin Feng was already a god, a symbol, and a legendary existence. At this moment, he suddenly showed his divinity. The impact was no less than when Xiao Yin and the others sent Juehuang into destruction. And today was destined to be a day that the entire Heaven Primal world would never forget. After rebuilding the Star Sea Gate and setting up the Taiji Heavenly Cycle Stars Array, Lin Feng smiled and looked at the vast thousand domains. In front of him was an indescribable, mysterious point that implied the beginning of everything, encompassed everything, and ended everything. Lin Feng's fruit of Tao appeared in front of him. And at this moment, Lin Feng's eyes also changed as he looked at the vast thousand domains. In his left eye, thousands of scenes of the demon world of infinite wasteland appeared, while in his right eye, the magnificent scene of the human world of the divine land appeared. Then, Lin Feng put his palms together again and closed his fruit of Tao in his palms. Suddenly, the entire vast thousand domains began to shake. At this moment, the vast thousand domains and the divine land shook at the same time, as if the world was about to be turned upside down. At this moment, the southern wasteland of the divine land and the east sea that led to the vast thousand domains began to distort at the same time. At this moment, the entire sky of the vast thousand domains was filled with boundless white light. It was as if the entire world was about to shatter. In the void of the vast thousand domains, the stars shone brightly, but at this moment, they seemed to have fallen into a state of stillness. The Spirit Sea and the Dead Sea Realm, which were everywhere, yet seemingly untraceable, were closely attached to the boundless thousand domains. At this moment, boundless waves were set off. Beside the Xintian Bureau, the Taishu Taoist was still looking at the Xintian Bureau, as if he was indifferent to everything else. However, at this moment he sighed softly. The chess piece in his hand, which he had never placed before, shook his head and simply tossed aside. Chapter 1484. When the Gate of Star Ocean was being reconstructed, the starry sky was in a state of chaos. Meteor showers covered the entire universe and affected every corner of the starry sky. At this moment, the vast thousand worlds were in turmoil, but the stars in the universe all calmed down. It was absolute stability. The stars in the sky seemed to have stopped rotating at this moment. They all became still, and the starlight dimmed. The heavenly cycle star orbit was so powerful that it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to shake it, let alone when billions of stars were still at the same time. The power of not moving was even more terrifying than the power of rotation. It was difficult to measure. Against this background, Lin Feng put his palms together in front of him. The divine land and the vast land of infinite wasteland, the two great worlds, twisted and changed at the same time. Everyone in the vast thousand worlds looked at this scene in shock. They saw the earth-shattering changes in the world in front of them. The sky was no longer the sky, and the earth was no longer the earth. The oceans were shattered, and the sun, moon, and stars disappeared. The heavenly wind and clouds turned into endless storms that swirled continuously. Before everyone's eyes, beams of white light swept through the world, covering the void. The intensity of the domain power exceeded everyone's memories. It was unprecedented. It was a scene of destruction that seemed like the end of the world, but all the living beings within it were safe and unaffected. On Jade Capital Mountain, in a Xiantian, timeless light grotto heaven, the Taishu Taoist pushed the Xiantian Bureau aside after abandoning his son. He got up and came to Lin Feng's side, silently watching this scene. In the original Divine Land, Gautama Buddha also stood up from the Sky Tower Pagoda in the Eastern Glazed Light World. He looked at the dramatic changes in the world in front of him and shook his head. After a sigh, he sat back down on the Sky Tower Pagoda. A majestic voice sounded in the Eastern Glazed Light World. Gautama Buddha closed his eyes and no longer looked at the outside world. Instead, he preached the supreme Dharma to all the Buddhas in the Eastern Glazed Light World. Xiao Yin and the others, who were still outside the Xintian Wasteland world, looked at the amazing scene in front of them with a slight change in expression. If nothing unexpected happened, this might very well be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The drastic changes in the vast thousand domains had triggered monstrous waves in the spirit sea, which was closely connected to it. The radiance of the Great Path directly passed through the barriers of the realms and descended upon the vast thousand domains that were undergoing changes at this moment. The ribbons of light intertwined with the void domain that was enveloped by the white light. Then, they gradually dispersed into specks of light dust, and very quickly, they turned back into ribbons of light. Then, it continued to decompose and reconstruct, repeating the process over and over. Xianmin Tianzong and the others were all watching the spectacle that was happening at this moment. They were earnestly trying to figure out the great Tao of heaven and earth, verifying what they had learned with each other. Yu Hongyan, Yang Qing, Li Yuanfang, and Luo Qingwu all wore extremely serious expressions, their eyes focused. As for Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao, the four of them watched this scene with a peaceful smile on their faces. Not only Xianmin Tianzong and the others, at this moment, all the cultivators in the vast thousand domains felt something in their hearts and gradually understood what was happening at this time. Everyone could not help but focus all their energy to watch and welcome this once-in-a-lifetime grand occasion together. In the Great War that ended at the end of the Archean era, Juehuang Xianshang, the Taishu Taoist, and the Taiwan Force caused the Haoyan Mirror of Creation to appear in the vast thousand domains. As a result, the vast thousand domains were divided into two, the vast land of infinite wasteland and the divine land. From then on, the pattern of Tian Yuan was determined for a long time. Since then, the great thousand domains of Tian Yuan had always been divided into two parts, through the Archean era, the Middle Era, and into the present era. It had always been like this until that moment. And now, after the reconstruction of the Gate of Star Sea, the master of the celestial sect of wonders, Lin Feng's next move was to reunite the vast land of infinite wasteland and the divine land, recreating the complete vast thousand domains of the Archean era. Compared to that, resetting the path in the Sea of Stars was nothing more than a trivial matter. Such a profound and grand change was unparalleled throughout the ages. The White Cloud Mountain, where the Taishu Temple used to be, was also engulfed by the white light at this moment, disappearing in the folds and distortions of the domain power. Everyone in the Taishu temple was also safe and sound, but they all looked at the scene in front of them with complicated expressions, not saying a word. Above their heads, the figures of the Haotian mirror that covered the heavens all disappeared, leaving only a treasured mirror that shone with a dark and deep light. At this moment, the Haotian mirror itself was shaking nonstop. The light of the great Tao and the rich domain power all gathered on the once number one magic treasure of Tian Yuan, which was nourished by heaven and earth. From the magic treasure, a vast and boundless will flowed out. That was naturally the will of the Haotian mirror itself. Everyone in the Taishu temple could feel joy and excitement from it. Only every time the Haotian mirror was damaged and restored to its full state could Taoist Master Tai and the others feel such emotions from the Haotian mirror. But in the entire history of the Taishu temple, this kind of emotion had never been as strong as it was today. As the Haotian mirror shook, it suddenly released a bright light, then turned into a stream of light, shooting up into the sky, and instantly disappeared in front of everyone in the Taishu temple. The stream of light was thrown into the fluctuating, twisting, and changing vast thousand domains. From afar, it seemed to be in the middle of the disappearing divine land and the vast thousand domains, sandwiched between the two worlds, and then the three overlapped and gradually became one. The white light became more and more dazzling, and the people in the vast thousand domains could no longer see clearly what was happening. But everything that was happening in front of them was clearly understood by Taoist Master Tai and the others. The Haotian mirror returned to where it should have been. That was the wish of the Haotian mirror itself. In the past, no one could fulfill this wish, and today the opportunity had come and no one could stop it. Even if the Taishu Taoist wanted to force it to stay, the only result would be a battle. This moment could already be foreseen in the distant past, but no one had ever been able to truly reunite the divine continent of Heaven Wasteland. The absurd idea of the past had become a reality today. Standing beside Lin Feng, the Taishu Taoist calmly looked at the scene and shook his head slightly. The Haotian mirror has returned to the vast thousand domains, and the two worlds have reunited. This is a brand new era. He turned to look at Lin Feng and slowly said, "Fellow, how far are you from that last step?" Lin Feng clasped his hands in front of his chest and looked at everything in front of him with a calm expression. Not far. The Taishu Taoist let out a long sigh and looked at the void without any focus. After a long while, a faint smile appeared on his face. "Today, I have learned a lot from the game of chess with you. I am very grateful. You are too polite. We are all people of the same path." Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. The Taishu Taoist figure left the mysterious Heaven-Time cave, and his voice came from afar. "In that case, I will take my leave." With the departure of the Taishu Taoist, the outside vast thousand domains gradually began to return to peace. The vast white light formed by the twisting and intertwining of the domain power began to gradually disappear and calm. The scenery of the world was restored, and the mountains, rivers, lakes, and seas reappeared. The billions of stars in the universe began to revolve again, shining brightly. The splendor of the great path in the Spirit Sea disappeared and returned to the Spirit Sea. The domain barrier between the world and the vast thousand domains reappeared. The living beings in the vast thousand domains looked at the world in front of them again and found that the scene before them was no different from before the Great Change. However, the mighty figures were all silent. Standing at a higher vantage point and looking down at the vast thousand domains, they found that the scene of the world was completely different. The two worlds, the divine land and infinite wilderness, seemed to have overlapped and fused together. From that day onwards, there was no longer the divine land or infinite wilderness. There was only the Tian Yuan vast domain left. The Taishu Taoist, who had left Yujing Mountain, looked around calmly. As one of the few mighty figures who had been born since the Archean epoch, he could naturally see that the current landscape of the vast thousand domains was exactly the same as the Archean epoch. It was as if time had been reversed. After a glance, the Taishu Taoist looked away and disappeared into the void. Lin Feng sat cross-legged again under the small, mysterious heaven treasure tree in the mysterious heaven time cave. His fingers gently tapped on the chessboard of the mysterious heaven game as he looked up at the sky. There seemed to be a faint light and shadow in the cave. Lin Feng's eyes were as calm as water. He shook his head and laughed. Although it was a game, it was unintentional. As he laughed, a voice seemed to ring in his mind. It was the voice of a system that he had not heard for a long time. However, the voice of the system was mixed with Lin Feng's laughter. It became softer and softer until it was completely inaudible. It was not just the voice that disappeared. The system that had accompanied Lin Feng since he came to this world also disappeared. Lin Feng's heart was as calm as a lake, without the slightest ripple. He smiled and shook his head. It's a different feeling. It was not in vain. Good, very good. He flicked his finger in the air, and the faintly discernible light and shadow in the mysterious sky time cave gradually dissipated. There seemed to be a loud laughter coming from it, coming from an extremely distant place that time and space couldn't measure. At that moment, everyone in the vast thousand domains was still in a state of shock. They could not recover for a long time. After a while, they all realized that the flow of spirit energy in the vast thousand domains was completely different after the two worlds merged. The blessed grotto heavens of the past might no longer be beautiful. The dangerous lands of the past might instead have other mysteries. This was a more pressing problem for the various forces, especially for some small and medium-sized forces and even ordinary people. However, they soon discovered that although the flow of spirit energy in the vast thousand domains had completely changed, the stability and beauty of the various forces were still maintained. It was not only the forces of the human cultivation world. It was the same for the ancestral land of the demon race. This was naturally the work of Lin Feng. He could cause a drastic change in the world, but he could still take care of everything. Such control made everyone gasp in admiration, but they could not resist. Then, an indifferent voice rang out in the world. I have gained some insights in cultivation in recent years. I have obtained the world and returned it to nature. In 3 days, I will open a forum at Kunlun Mountain to give a lecture. All my fellow cultivators, regardless of sect inheritance, human race, or demon race, can come. Chapter 1485. Time passed, and the world changed. Many years had passed since the divine land and the vast land of infinite wasteland merged, and the sect master of the celestial sect gave his first speech. For the new generation of the vast thousand domains, they did not know much about the two worlds that had been separated in the past. It was just a legend. Many legends of the past had gone far away, but the existence that had been passed down was almost mythical. It was Xianmin Tianzong, who had stood at the peak of the great Heaven Yuan world since the Battle of the Spirit Sea. He was an eternal legend. After sending Juehuang Xianshang to death in the Battle of the Xianhai Sea, he returned from the Xianhai Sea. The second sect master of Xianmin Tianzong, the legendary master of the Nether Sea, Xiao Yin, had passed the position to his disciple, Tang Jun. He was the third sect master of Xianmin Tianzong. It had been many years since then. After Xiao Yin left his position, he left the floating sky peak and returned to Finchen Cliff in the Flame Emperor City. As time passed, not only the sect master of the celestial sect Lin Feng, but also Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, and the others had become legendary figures. Apart from Easy Zhu Yi, the heavenly emperor of the wilderness Shi Tianhao, and the Yin Yang Dao Lord Yang Qing, who were still in the human world, the others did not enter the world easily and rarely interfered with the affairs of Xianmin Tianzong and the vast thousand domains. Even the descendants of Xianmin Tianzong rarely saw these elders. Xianmin Tianzong was already established. There were many talents, and it was growing stronger and stronger. The third sect master, Tang Jun, was forging ahead. There was an endless stream of experts in the sect. No one could shake Xianmin Tianzong's position. After that, Tang Jun's sharpness gradually faded, and Xianmin Tianzong's style became more aloof. However, No one would underestimate Xianmin Tianzong. In the vast thousand domains, whether it was the human race or the demon race, they did not have any hostility towards Xianmin Tianzong. Ever since the two worlds were reunited, the master of the celestial sect of wonders, Lin Feng, would open a forum and give a lecture every 1,000 years. The principles he explained caused all the cultivators to feel enlightened, and they all went over in admiration. There were forces that had existed before. After listening to Lin Feng's lecture, their Taoism reached a new level and a new world appeared in front of them. There is a person who started out as an insignificant person who obtained this great fortune. Listening to Lin Feng's lecture, comprehending the truths of heaven and earth, gradually walking down a path that belonged to him. In the current Great Thousand Worlds, there were many rising forces that caused people to raise their eyebrows. All of them benefited from the profound gate. Even the many demon race experts who listened to Lin Feng's speech also benefited greatly. Who knew how many people benefited greatly from it? After so many years, the scenery of the Great Thousand Worlds had taken on a new look. Experts continuously emerged, and as time passed, it gradually became more prosperous than before. In the long run, it would usher in an unprecedented golden age of cultivation. And all of this originated from the master of the celestial sect, Lin Feng. To this day, no matter how one felt about Xianmin Tianzong, the experts of the world all respected the master of the celestial sect, Lin Feng, as the master of heaven and earth. Many people addressed him as Master Lin, not by name. Lin Feng's opening speech, which happened once every 1,000 years, became the grandest event in the vast thousand world, a once-in-a-thousand-years event. Only with such a grand occasion would Flame Emperor Xiao Yan, Ezizhu Yi, Extreme Exalted Wang Lin, Desolate Heavenly Emperor Shi Tianhao, and other legendary experts gather together in Kunlun. It was truly the first grand occasion in the Tianyuan continent. Every time this moment came, all the experts of the great Heaven Yuan world would gather at Kunlun Mountain. No matter what kind of grudges or disputes they had in the past, they would settle down before the day of Lin Feng's speech and welcome Lin Feng's opening speech. This was not Lin Feng's idea, nor was it Xianmin Tianzong's request. It was the consensus of the entire cultivation world of the great Heaven Yuan world. In the beginning, some people had evil thoughts and intended to set up an ambush outside Kunlun Mountain to kill their enemies. In the end, they caused public indignation and destroyed themselves. Since then, anyone who caused trouble during the opening speech of the master of the celestial sect would be the public enemy of the world and would be attacked by everyone. At this moment, in the northern desert near the periphery of the Kunlun mountain range, there were people confronting each other. Both sides were human cultivators, but they were soon suppressed and captured by others passing by. The expert who captured them was a Tao Tai, and the person standing next to it was a human expert. When the two worlds had just been united, the battle between the human clan and the demon clan was more intense because of the geographical relationship. But as time passed, especially when Lin Feng opened a forum to give a lecture, everyone could listen regardless of whether it was the human race or the demon race. Mortals of Kunlun Mountain were all not excluded. A brand new scene gradually appeared in front of the cultivation world of the Heaven Primal world, allowing all the cultivators to have a deeper understanding of the Tao of heaven and earth and a wider path. After the third sect master, Tang Jun, Xianmin Tianzong once again opened the mountain gate to accept disciples. It was no longer limited to the elites of the human clan, but even the demon clan could become his disciple. It was the same for the 8 Taoist sites, including Finch and Cliff of Yin Emperor City, Qian Tian Palace of Yi Dao Academy, and Fan Lin Ju of the Immortal Defying World. For a time, the world was shaken. After that, as the experts of the human clan and the demon clan emerged one after another, there were still battles between the two sides. Xianmin Tianzong's status became more and more transcendent. He did not interfere with the struggle between the other human and demon forces, but the intensity of the battles in all aspects had decreased imperceptibly. The master of the celestial sect, Lin Feng, and Xianmin Tianzong were like the sky, calm and indifferent. Most of the time, people would even forget their existence, but they always hung above the great thousand creation and eternal existence. After a long time, the relationship and opposition between the various races of the great thousand worlds had become a completely different scene. Just like the sigh of the Taishu Taoist in the past, the current Tianyuan Great World was already a brand new era, completely different from the past. The Taodai and the human cultivator often had dealings with each other. They were old friends. This time, they also went to Kunlun together to listen to Lin Feng's lecture. Seeing that someone wanted to fight outside the Kunlun mountain, the Taodai was furious. He directly captured both sides and looked at them while grinding his teeth. Only then did the two sides calm down and hurriedly explain. The human cultivator waved his hand and persuaded his companion to stop. While they were talking, the void in the distance suddenly broke, and a figure appeared from it. It was a young man in purple. This young man was dressed in purple, and there was a black and white Tai Chi symbol on the lapel of his robe, and a picture of a tornado was embroidered on the cuffs. When the young man saw the Tao Tai and the human cultivator, he smiled and said, "Why are the two of you here?" The Taodai and the human cultivator hurriedly greeted, "Fellow Taoist Jing Yun, nice to meet you." The young man in purple in front of them was the sixth-generation true disciple of Xianmen Tianzong of Mist Mountain Snow Wind Valley. He was the direct disciple of Guozhong Huang. A long time ago, there was already news in Xianmen Tianzong that after the ancestral master's lecture, Tang Jun would step down and cultivate in seclusion, and Guozhong Huang would take over as the fourth sect leader of Xianmen Tianzong. However, everyone respected this young man not only because of his identity, but also because although he looked young, his magical powers were extremely amazing, which made everyone present gasp in admiration. Taoist Jingyan smiled and said, "Everyone who comes is a guest. Everyone, please follow me to the floating sky peak." After saying that, he led everyone to the Kunlun mountain range. After entering the northern part of the Kunlun mountain range, the scenery above their heads changed. They saw the vast void of the universe, and the bright stars were fascinating. Everyone recognized that it was where the mountain gate of Xianmen Tianzong was located. The mountain guarding array, the Tai Chi Heavenly Cycle Stars array, could draw the power of the Sea of Stars, and was one of the best arrays in the world. Although it looked peaceful at the moment, once it was fully activated, it could really turn the world upside down. The universe would shake, and even those under the immortal realm would find it difficult to resist. Everyone looked at it and sighed in their hearts. Every time this happened, they could deeply understand the power of Xianmen Tianzong. In the world, there were only a few arrays that could compete with the Tai Chi Heavenly Cycle Stars array, and almost all of these arrays belonged to Xianmen Tianzong. Thinking of this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. I heard that the Taishu Temple's supreme, void, yin-yang grand formation has been polished for many years, and it has become stronger and stronger. It seems to be able to challenge the profound gates array. Someone transmitted his voice to his companion. Lin Feng's spreading of the Dharma had benefited the whole world. Those who had a deep foundation had a high starting point, and although it was difficult to improve further, the benefits were also great. Forces like the Yudu clan, the Dragon clan, the primordial demonic ape clan, and the Buddhist sect were all like this. Naturally, Taishu Temple was no exception. From a certain point of view, it might even be the one who benefited the most. That person's companion grinned. Someone has ulterior motives. They want to provoke and plot against Taishu Temple, so they spread this rumor. However, the Supreme Void Yin-Yang formation is indeed constantly being strengthened, especially in these years when the number of experts in the Taishu Temple has gradually increased. The formation itself has also improved. Although I don't know how it compares to the Taiji Heavenly Cycle Star formation, but if you want to find a top formation that can challenge the Xiangei formation, then it is definitely the one. However, the premise is that it is on White Cloud Mountain. Just like the Buddhist sects Vediri and Urbisa in the east, it is also very extraordinary, but not like Xianmen Tianzong. Other than the major thousand illusory void formation in Inghai, the other arrays are not restricted to the terrain. The person who spoke first nodded his head. The reason why the Great Void Yin-Yang formation can be improved is all thanks to the master of the celestial sect of wonders preaching the Tao. The reason why the supreme Taoist lord of the Great Void Temple was able to recover from the Tao death is also because of this. His companion also sighed and said, "A person like the master of Profound Gate is comparable to the teacher of the world, so he isn't someone we should discuss. If we can comprehend a bit of marvel from his preaching, it will be enough for us to benefit for the rest of our lives." Our sect's patriarch obtained the incomplete inheritance of the king of the underworld's lineage by chance. It was also thanks to the preaching of the master of Profound Gate back then that we were able to organize and reap some benefits. However, there are still quite a number of obstacles, and the path ahead is very difficult. We will have to rely on this preaching. Although the chaos caused by the king of the underworld has long passed, it has left our sect in an awkward position. The king of the underworld died in the hands of the extreme high holiness, and his last direct disciple, the Nether Taoist, was killed by the Flame Emperor after the battle for the spiritual sea. This matter has long been forgotten, and Xianmen Tianzong won't mind. If we want others to not look down on our sect, we have to improve our strength ourselves. The others nodded in unison. As they spoke, they had passed through layers of voids, and the hovering heavenly peak of Xianmen Tianzong came into view. A beam of light fell from the starry sky above and enveloped the hovering heavenly peak. Chapter 1486. Light shrouded the suspending sky peak. When everyone arrived at the top of the mountain, they saw that the void seemed to have been divided into small worlds by an invisible force. Visitors from different clans came. In some of the small worlds, lights surged, and the scene inside could not be seen clearly. However, Jing Yun and the others knew that these were the top experts of this world, and most of them were close friends with Xianmen Tianzong. In other small worlds, there were some cultivators or demons with relatively lower cultivation levels. The space was divided, and everyone who came had a place to listen. There was no need to fight, and there were no tests. Everyone knew that this was the first time Lin Feng, the master of the Celestial Gate, opened the altar to give a lecture. Just as Lin Feng had said in the past, all cultivators in the world, regardless of their talent or cultivation, could come and listen to the lecture. There were fewer people this year than in previous years, but it was not because those people were unwilling to come. On the contrary, every time Lin Feng opened the altar to give a lecture, the number of people would increase. But this time, the reason for the lecture was because the celestial sect of Xianmen had spread the news to the Great Thousand Worlds. Their patriarch's lecture this time would be directed to the entire heaven primal world. There was no need for them to rush to the Kunlun Mountains. However, perhaps to show their sincerity or hoping for unexpected gains, there were still many people who came from thousands of miles away. For example, the ancient Emperor Gujun and the other top experts who were on good terms with the celestial sect of 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 on the suspending sky peak in the All Heavens Hall, the third sect master of Xianmen Tianzong, Tang Jun, sat on the main seat and said in a gentle voice, "You are all guests from afar. I thank you on behalf of my ancestral master. Now that the time has come, let us welcome the ancestral master to open the altar." As soon as he finished speaking, above the sea of stars, at the source of the light pillar that covered the suspending sky peak, a boundless purple aura suddenly spread out, covering the sky. The vast and boundless void of the universe was also enveloped by the purple aura at this moment. The black universe turned purple. The purple aura spread out and covered the entire Great Thousand Worlds. It was boundless and endless. The sky of the entire Kunlun mountain range turned purple. The sky above the distant East Sea turned purple. The sky above the Taishu Temple Baiyun Mountain, and the sky above the capital of the Great Zhou Dynasty, Tianjing City, turned purple. The sky above the ancestral lands of the demon clans, which were in the same world as the human world, was also enshrouded in a vast purple mist. It wasn't just the colossal world. At this moment, even the numerous dimensional worlds in the outer area of the colossal world, foreign dimension, dark ocean, netherworld ocean, spirit ocean, and so on and so forth were dyed in a layer of violet, causing them to seem gorgeous and profound. No one felt any pressure in the area shrouded by the purple mist. The flow of the surrounding spiritual energy did not change at all. No one could sense anything strange. It was as if the world was supposed to be like this. Just like the existence of the celestial sects Master Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong over the years, they were as high as the sky, and the great Tao was simple. They seemed ordinary, and they were used to it. They were ignored by others, but they were eternally hanging high and difficult to touch. At this moment, in the sky above the suspending sky peak of the Kunlun mountain range, the purple mist rolled and slowly dispersed. A white jade, immortal mountain descended from the sky. The seven-colored treasure tree at the top of the mountain swayed and shone. Below the mysterious sky treasure tree, 8 figures sat around the treasure tree. All of them had tranquil expressions. They were the direct disciples of the celestial sect's Master Lin Feng, Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, Shi Tianhao, Yu Hongyan, Yang Qing, Li Yuanfang, and Luo Qingwu. In the heaven primordial world, they were already legendary existences. They would not easily step into the mortal world. The only time they would gather like this was when Lin Feng opened the altar. At the top of the mysterious sky treasure tree, a purple-clothed young man sat cross-legged. He was naturally the supreme existence of the heaven primordial world, the eternal legend, the founder of Xianmen Tianzong, and the master of the celestial sect, Lin Feng. Lin Feng sat with a smile. After appearing, he did not say anything else and directly began to preach. His voice spread to every corner of the heaven primordial world. It was everywhere. His voice was not loud, but it came from the bottom of everyone's heart. Silently, it was as if he was whispering in their hearts. The voices of the people in the heaven primordial world quieted down at this moment. Silently, everyone listened to the master of the celestial sect speak. The complicated, profound, and simple great Tao of heaven and earth were engraved in everyone's minds. They were intoxicated and immersed in it. In the past, all the doubts that hindered their cultivation and they could not understand suddenly became clear at this moment. From time to time, in every corner of the heaven primordial world, there were people who suddenly had an epiphany. They broke through their original bottlenecks and reached a higher cultivation realm. There were even people who pushed open the door of the primordial spirit and refined their chi into spirit. There were also people who refined their spirit to return to the void, and even those who returned to the void and merged with the Tao. Some powerful cultivators only felt that the fog in front of them had dissipated. Their path was smooth, and even if they were to experience the tribulation immediately, they were confident. Everyone's hearts were filled with joy. Similar things would always happen after Lin Feng's spreading the Tao speech, and this time it seemed to be especially mysterious. It was not just the cultivators. Even the mortals stopped what they were doing at this moment. Silently, they listened to the low chant that sounded like a god from the heavens. They felt that the world in front of them was gradually changing. Ordinary birds and beasts stopped and rested their wings. Their eyes flashed as if they were about to gain intelligence. Under the mysterious sky treasure tree, Xiao Yin and the others all looked calm and reverently at the top of the tree. There, Lin Feng sat and preached. Above his head, the true fruit of the great Tao was constantly evolving the Tai Chi Taoist scripture, expounding on the endless mysteries of the great Tao. Apart from that point, there was nothing else. There was no time, no space, no yin and yang, no temperature, no speed, no light, and no darkness. Without the concept of space, there was no way to distinguish up from down. Without the concept of time, There was no way to distinguish the past and the future. There was no way to describe its size, shape, or position. There was no way to guess what this point was made of. It was like the beginning of the Great Tao, but also like the end of the Great Tao. It had no head and no tail, no beginning and no end. It was mysterious, and all the mysteries were one. However, when Lin Feng's Tai Chi Daoist scripture came to an end, everything changed again. This time, even that mysterious and unfathomable point had disappeared. Lin Feng himself did not seem to have changed at all. Above his head, the appearance of the bell of creation reappeared. The melodious sound of the bell reverberated between heaven and earth, covering every corner of the vast thousand domains. Amidst the sound of the bell, the huge bell of creation slowly changed. Finally, it turned into a huge stone door. The stone door was pitch black, and its surface was covered with thousands of relief carvings. Amidst the ancient desolation, it exuded a strong aura of life. The door behind it let out a muffled sound and slowly opened to both sides. An invisible river flowed out from the door. The river flowed without stopping, neither fast nor slow, but it had a force that would never stop. When the long river flowed to its end, an ancient book floated in the river. As the pages of the book flipped, all living things flourished and declined. All living things were created, and there was bound to be destruction, from prosperity to decline, from prosperity to weakness. When this ancient scroll flipped to the last page, it vanished just like Lin Feng's Tao fruit, only leaving behind an expanse of nothingness that was hazy and indistinct. Nothing could be seen clearly, and it was difficult to describe and comprehend. This nothingness floated above Lin Feng's head, looking like it had form and substance, but made Xiao Yin and the others who witnessed this scene have an indescribable feeling. If Lin Feng's Tao fruit was indescribable, it could be described as a point. They could feel the power of the beginning and end within it. However, the changes in Lin Feng's Tao fruit and the changes in the bell of creation gave them an indescribable feeling. It was not that they were out of words, nor was it truly indescribable. It was just that no matter how they described it, no matter how they guessed, they would only get the wrong answer. Lin Feng, who was enveloped by the void, surpassed all logic and reason. No matter how inconceivable or ridiculous things were to him, they were all natural to him. In Xiao Yan's eyes, his master could decide the life and death of a universe with a single word. He could do whatever he wanted, and he could do it as easily as he wanted. In Zhu Yi's eyes, his master looked down on the universe. He was omniscient, and there was nothing he did not know. The creation of the universe was like the lines on his palm. In Wang Lin's eyes, his master could tamper with karma, distort reincarnation, and change the past and future of the heaven primordial world according to his will. In Shi Tianhao's eyes, his master could return the universe to the primordial world with a single thought and change the world with a single thought. In other people's eyes, looking at Lin Feng, they had different feelings, but they could not really describe, guess, analyze, or define it. Xiao Yan's senior brothers and junior sisters sighed together, stood up, and then bowed to Lin Feng. They said in unison, "Congratulations on transcending, Master." At the foot of Jade Capital Mountain, on the floating sky peak, in the boundless world, in the 8 major Taoist rites of Xianmen Tianzong, all the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong bowed to the purple sky above their heads. Congratulations on transcending, Patriarch. All the cultivators around the floating sky peak who had come to listen to the lecture finally understood. They bowed respectfully to the purple sky. Congratulations on transcending, Master Lin. Outside Kunlun Mountain, countless sects, countless ancestral grounds, regardless of whether they were humans or demons, regardless of their cultivation level, bowed to the purple sky above their heads. Congratulations on transcending, Master Lin. Above the East Sea, in the eastern world of Vairocana light, Gautama Buddha and the future glazed Buddha Lord put their palms together. Congratulations on transcending, Master Xianmen. After the prayers, the figure of the ancestor of Buddhism, Gautama Buddha, who had ascended the bridge of eternity, started to gradually disappear. The body of the future, glazed Buddha, Lord moved from the central present position to the left of the past position. Meanwhile, the indistinct light shadow Buddha that had been condensing on the right of the future position began to move toward the central present position. Its figure became more and more condensed, and it descended from the Buddha's light. On White Cloud Mountain, the Taishu Taoist, who had not taken a step there since the Battle of the Spirit Sea, finally returned. A group of Taishu cultivators followed behind him, their faces calm. They bowed to the purple sky above their heads. Congratulations on transcending, Master Xianmen. On Jade Capital Mountain, Lin Feng laughed softly. He stretched out his hand and suddenly grabbed at the void. Then he retracted his hand. There was a ball of light in his hand, glowing faintly. He stretched out his hand again, and the medium-class blackboard world, which even the Hao-Ian mirror could not accurately locate, was grasped in his hand. Within the blackboard world, the Yudu royal city stood tall. Phantom Sun, Yudu, and the other strong fighters of the Yudu race stared blankly at this scene. Lin Feng stretched out his hand again and grabbed at the void. He saw the water of the Dead Sea, which could annihilate all things, rippling in the void. Lin Feng's palm reached deep into it. In the Dead Sea, there was a ball of light that looked like a door that led to an endless, unknown existence. Lin Feng's palm grabbed it and pulled it out. Lin Feng rolled up his sleeves and kept everything. He did not say anything, nor did he give any explanation. He turned his head and looked in another direction. There, the void broke open, and a cold and elegant woman walked out. Her eyes were cold and quiet, and her face was peerless. Lin Feng laughed softly and said, "Let's go." The woman's cold face actually softened slightly at this moment, and a rare faint smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. She nodded silently and came to Lin Feng's side. Lin Feng looked down at his disciples and said with a smile, "Disciples, I will wait for you outside. Don't make me wait too long." Xiao Yin and the others smiled and bowed to Lin Feng again. "How dare we disobey?" Lin Feng laughed at the sky. With a wave of his sleeves, he stepped into the sky with the woman and disappeared into the purple sky. After Lin Feng left, the purple aura did not dissipate. From then on, the sky of the great heaven primordial world was always purple. It was beautiful and mysterious. And this day became the most important day in the history of the great heaven primordial world. Because on this day, the first person to ascend to the zenith heaven primordial world, the one who transcended beyond the mortal world, appeared. On this day, the founder of Xianmen Tianzong and led the sect to ascend to the throne of the number one sacred ground of the great heaven primordial world, Lin Feng, the master of Xianmen Tianzong, gave a lecture for the last time. After passing down his teachings to the world, he stepped into the sky and left. From then on, the master of Xianmen Tianzong could no longer be seen in the world. However, the great heaven primordial world had left behind the fruit of his efforts. Xianmen Tianzong, the number one sacred ground in history, also left behind his eternal legend. The supreme of the heavens, the master of the world, the first founder in history. The end of the book. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.